Hello and welcome to the Money Matters podcast. My name is PJ Patterson. I'm the founder of Keystone Financial, and we exist to help our clients design and live great financial lives. And to that end, the topic for today is on something very important in designing and living a great financial life, and that is goal setting. And I want to give you a framework today and have a conversation about goal setting because, again, it's such a critical part of achieving anything. If you don't have a goal, then you're certainly not going to have any chance whatsoever of achieving what you are probably capable of as a human being. But whether it's in sport or in health or in your career or in money, wealth creation, if you don't have a well-defined goal, and there's a few other aspects of it that I'm going to go into today, but if you don't have a well-defined goal, it's just going to be a lot harder to achieve it. But even once you have a well-defined goal, there are a number of things, I suppose, that you need to consider when you are creating that goal and designing it. And there's an acronym called SMART, and it's this is about setting SMART goals. I'm going to go into what each of those letters stand for and just have a quick conversation about it. Because again, without goal setting, you're just wandering aimlessly around Spaceship Earth, and we don't want that. I certainly don't want that as a financial advisor. My clients just meandering. They should have, it's best, it's most appropriate for them to have some goals. And then we can hold them accountable, or I can hold them accountable to achieving that goal. So let's go into what the SMART acronym actually is all about. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And going forward, when you are thinking about setting a goal, apply that acronym. And let's see if it's a SMART goal. So first of all, is it specific enough? So it isn't enough just to say, I want to be healthy, or I want to be rich, or I want to be a better public speaker. That is very unspecific. It doesn't really have a certain one thing that you can say, I achieved it or I didn't achieve it. So specific is very binary. So to say I'm rich, well, what does that mean? But if you said, I want to save $10,000 by the end of this year, well, that's a very specific goal. You either will do it or you won't do it. And so again, that's probably the most important part of goal setting, is to be as specific as possible, because it makes all the other things we're about to talk about that much easier. So be specific when you're thinking about your goals. The next thing it needs to be is measurable. So again, if I set a goal saying I want to be rich versus I want to save $10,000, the second one is very measurable, because I can, again, get to the end of the year or the time frame, whatever that might be, and I can say, let's check the bank account. There's either 10 grand in there or maybe a bit more, or there isn't. So again, this thing needs to be measurable. Now, in terms of, say, health as an example, to say I want to be healthy, I don't know what that means. But if you say I want to lose 20 kilos, then again, that's a very measurable thing. You can get on a scale on one day, and then at the end of the time frame that you nominate to achieve that goal, we can get on the scale again and see if you've lost the 20 kilos or more or less, but we can see it's measurable. The next thing it needs to be is attainable. And I think the weight loss example is a great example of that. So if you were really unfit or obese, overweight, and you had to lose a lot of weight, it's probably a difficult thing to say, like, let's say, gosh, and I hope none of you listening are in this space, but let's say you had to lose 100 kilos. That's like 200 pounds, more than that, 220 pounds, a lot of weight. But there are people who have done it, right? But let's say you need to lose 100 kilos. Is that attainable within a very short time frame? And we're going to get to timely in a minute, but of course it isn't. But if you were to say, well, I have a specific goal, I want to lose 100 kilos, it can be measured. The next question is that going to be attainable? Will you really physically be able to do that? Do you have something inhibiting you from losing that kind of weight? Or if we want to use a monetary example, I want $1 million by the end of this year. Is that attainable? Probably not. Not unless I want to go and, buy a bunch of lottery tickets. I mean, maybe I'd get lucky, right? But is the goal actually attainable? And I suppose that moves into the side, to the realistic side as well. if you don't have the income earning capacity, as an example of that, earning $1 million or saving $1 million, if you don't have the ability to generate and put aside that kind of free cash, then it's not realistic. It's not something that is within the realm of possibility for you to be able to do. But if you want to save $10,000 by the end of the year, well, sure, that's probably much more realistic of a goal. And then finally, the timely aspect of the SMART goal. Have you allocated the appropriate amount of time to do this thing? And again, I think the example of health and money are two great examples where you need to be realistic about setting the timeline on that. Again, if you were going to try to lose 100 kilos in a month, that's not going to happen. If you wanted to do it in a year, well, maybe that's achievable. 2 years, probably absolutely achievable, because you can break that down into smaller increments and work your way backwards to see what you have to do and the things that you need to do on a consistent basis and measure as you go along to see if you've done that. So there you go. There's the SMART goal approach to setting goals. And finally, I suppose, to close off this particular podcast and this conversation, again, it's so important to identify things in your life that you want to set goals around. And you can have a goal on anything. It could be, and I did this a couple of years ago now with my wife. I said, I want to make sure that every week we go out on a Friday night for date night. That's a specific goal. It's measurable. We either go on date night or we don't. It's something that's totally attainable. It requires me to leave work, 30 minutes before. I normally do a bit earlier, 30 minutes earlier than I usually do. It's realistic. Is that something we can do every Friday? Of course it is. And you know what? If there's 1 or 2 Fridays where there's something on with the kids or whatever, and we miss out, that's probably okay as well. But it's totally realistic. We can both commit to doing that. And it's timely. I'm not saying we're going to go out every night, right? Or anything like that. It's something that we can absolutely achieve. And even if you just say we're going to go on date night one time a month or once every 2 weeks, again, that's a really timely and realistic goal. But please give some thought to the things in your life, maybe, or areas in your life where perhaps you don't feel like you're achieving, or you are maybe a bit stuck and you're thinking, God, is there anything I can do to get out of this particular rut? Well, it could be that you haven't set a realistic, attainable, measurable, specific, and timely goal. Mix it up there on you. So think of it that way. Think of anything in your life, maybe where you're unhappy, you're not achieving, and ask yourself, can I apply this technique of setting a SMART goal to hit the mark and achieve that thing? For anybody that's really interested in goal setting and achievement, there's a fantastic book by David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. That dude is awesome. He's an inspiration. It's an easy read. And I tell you what, if you think you've got problems or there's some things in your life you're not happy with, read that book and you will, I guarantee you will be thinking every time life's a little bit hard, you think of David Goggins, and you'll be like, yeah, I can get through this. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this podcast. As always, I wish you all the success with your investing. And if you're interested in leaving a comment or starting a conversation with me about this, please leave something in the comments. Start that conversation. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your comments on this podcast. And lastly, if you would like to see whether you have developed some wealthy habits and to see how you track with the wealthy habits that I think are very important, I have a scorecard on that. Just go to the website. It's probably somewhere in the link on this landing page. Click on that, take the quiz, and see how you stack up in terms of your wealthy habits. And I'll catch you on the next podcast. Thanks for joining me. You've been listening to the Money Matters podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you liked the content that you've heard today, please subscribe to the channel. And remember to leave a comment, like, and share it. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Money Matters podcast.
Well,